When you realise how uncertain life is, you do begin to appreciate the value of family and friendships and enjoy those moments while you have them, because you don't know what's around the corner. So at 15 months he was diagnosed with childhood cancer, and I basically became a full-time carer from then on. We went into hospital, and after repeated scans and ultrasounds, had to put him through chemo, because the tumour basically was in his, growing out of his left kidney, out of the adrenal gland, but it was also wrapped, some legs had wrapped around the IVC, which is the major blood supply up to the heart. So surgery wasn't an easy issue, so they had to put him on chemo for sort of 3 to 4 cycles. They then had some surgery, removed everything, and ultimately ended up with what they'd call sledgehammer chemo, which is very, very strong chemo. And then after 10 months, and it was a full-on 10 months, I think 3 out of every 4 weeks, I was in the hospital with him. He actually came through and he was declared clear. We waited 3 months to let him recuperate, then we took a big family holiday up to Byron Bay. That's when my wife found a lump on her breast, so we came back to Melbourne. She had a mastectomy and went straight onto chemo, and 4 days before she finished, Marmaduke relapsed. And by this time his tumour had eaten most of the bone and he basically fractured his leg, which is how we found it. He then ended up racing into hospital, and we probably didn't quite realise just how serious a relapsed neuroblastoma can be. They said we're going to be close to changing the conversation. So at the moment we're looking for a cure. We're still looking for a cure, but if the next cycle doesn't really have an impact, then the conversation will change and we'll really be looking at management, which meant that he would be terminal. Around that same time, although Millsom had finished her treatment, 3 months after her treatment, she relapsed big time and almost died. We effectively at that stage decided, well then let's live in the moment. We brought him home and he spent 4 or 5 months having a fantastic time with his brothers. We had a marvellous time. We even took him bush camping and had them all out in the water, and it was just a priceless time. We knew that we couldn't cure him. We didn't know what the sentence was going to be. We didn't know. No one could actually say whether it would be 4 months, 3 months, a year. We just tried to enjoy each day and enjoy the moment, which is why the end of his journey, to have him at home in his own bedroom with all his own colours, his own toys, his own sounds, have his brothers climbing in and out of his bed, it was as normal an environment as he could possibly have, and it was critical. Then probably I'd say about 2 months before he died, things literally started crashing. I think that's when also my wife started crashing, and I think that's when I say the hut started sliding slowly off the mountainside. It was just like it all started going then. Millsom was at home. The only way I could get Marmaduke at home, because I couldn't be in the hospital when Millsom was sick at home, was to get him home with palliative care. So that also meant that he could come home. He could go in a big sort of recliner with an inflatable mattress underneath, and he could get wheeled into the lounge, and he can sit there with his brothers watching a DVD or playing games, and that was extraordinary because it gave him freedom. Now, palliative care is often about, it's just comfort. So the pain relief in terms of the quality of life is absolutely critical. To be able to offer that sort of pain relief at home and almost allow him to lead a normal life with his family, with incredible drugs going into him. Invariably the nurses would say he had enough going into him to bring down an elephant, and yet they were amazed that he was not just conscious but lucid. If he'd been in hospital with limited pain medication, the discomfort would have been horrendous, and undoubtedly his life would have been shorter, I would imagine, because the pain and the stress would have had quite a debilitating effect on him. That's why it was so important with palliative care that we had the opportunity to bring him home. So literally he was then at home with family. So his brothers knew exactly where he was in the house, and his sister literally Charlotte curled up in bed with him every day for 4 to 5 weeks.
I connected with him most of his life, but really intimately in his last final weeks. It was just almost natural for me to, I guess, just be with him every second I could.
It was important for us to just remain positive. The reality is that you know how it's going to end, but you need to embrace each day as well as you can and as calmly and cheerfully as you can for the family, but also for Marmaduke.
He knew that he was loved every second of the day. There wouldn't be 5 minutes that would go by without someone interacting with him.
I think what that also gave was constant touch and comfort, which I think is something not to be underestimated as someone's ending their life. When Millsom died, she always thought the wheels would wobble, but they literally just fell off. So it was quite a crash when it happened. And with Marmaduke, having him home for those 5 weeks, we'd had just so extraordinary days. Sounds a bit odd to say this, but this is the most beautiful time, and it was. It was sharing that journey. One thing that seems clear to me is yes, death's a mystery, but it's actually part of life.
It definitely puts things into perspective. It also it makes authentic relationships with the people around you a lot more significant. I think the only way you can deal with severe hardships is through connection with others.
I've found that in grief, instinctively gratitude is an easier path for me than loss. With gratitude, I'm grateful for what I had. So I celebrate their lives and their memories, and it values them in a sense, so that I can think of them, and I think of the wonderful times we had together, the times we shared. So yes, it was a short journey, but it was so rich, and that there's plenty to celebrate, and I thrive on it now.